guys. I have procrastinated on putting this lesson together for you guys. Generally, I do these first thing in the morning. It's 10:45 and I'm just getting started. So anyway, it was a good holiday weekend. I'll have to say that. I hope you guys had a chance to get outside and enjoy that beautiful weather and ready to start back up. Okay, see if we can get ourselves motivated. Today we're working on the law of cosines. Okay, we talked about this the other day, the different types of triangles, but again, I don't want you to stress too much over this. If you know a pair, a side and an angle across from that side for the triangle, you can use the law of sines, which is what we did the other day. If you don't know them, which happens in these two cases, and you'll see why when we get to the pictures, then you can't use the law of sines. So you don't really have to worry about what type it is. If you don't have a pair, you don't have a pair. It's not going to work. Okay? So for example, this first example, we know all of the sides, but we don't know any angles. So we can't do a pair. We can't do A over the sine of A because we don't know angle A. We can't do B over the sine of B because we don't know angle B. And we can't do C over the sine of C because we don't know angle C. So we can't use that, so we have to revert to one of these. And you can see by looking at these that they're much more complicated than the law of sines. And you can see why we wouldn't want to use these unless we had no other option. Okay, so if we have a choice and we know a pair, we go to the law of sines. If we don't, we use the law of cosines. Okay, 6 different forms here, 6. You pick one of these forms if you are looking for an angle. I'm sorry, a side. You look at these forms if you are looking for an angle. Okay, and both of them have a step that you have to do at the very end. For example, if we're using this one and we're solving for a squared, in the end, if we want to know what a is, we have to take the square root of our answer. And a common mistake is to forget to do that step. Same thing over here. Let's say we're solving for angle A and we use this formula. When we're done, we will have the cosine of A, which means we have to inverse cosine or second cosine our answer. And again, it's very easy to forget to do that step. So finding sides, finding angles, at the end you have to square root, at the end you have to second cosine. Okay, so let's practice. Okay, this is a hint that you're going to want to remember whenever you are using the law of cosines. You are always going to find the largest angle or the largest side first. If you do not do this, some really strange things can happen to your answers. Trust me. Okay, so you want to find your biggest angle, which is across from your biggest side, or your biggest side, which is across from your biggest angle, first. Okay, we know all of our sides here, so we need to find angles. The biggest side is side B, so we want to find angle B first. Okay, we're finding an angle, we use these. We want angle B, we pick this one. And you won't have to memorize these. You can look these up anytime you need them. Okay, so the cosine of B is equal to A squared, so that's 8 squared, plus C squared is 14 squared, minus B squared, which is 19 squared, divided by 2 times A times C, which is 14. Okay, and remember, if you're putting this in your calculator, you want this all in parentheses and you want this all in parentheses. This divided by this total. Okay, so we're going to do those two, this product. Then in the end, we're going to do the inverse cosine. Okay, so let me type this into my calculator. By the way, I happen to be in degrees, which is a good thing when our answer in degrees. So I'm in degrees. I'm going to do parentheses 8 squared plus 14 squared minus 19 squared, parenthesis, divided by, parenthesis, 2 times 8 times 14, and end that parenthesis as well. And that is going to give me a negative 0.45, okay? And this answer keeps going on and on and on. I don't want to round it off. I want to find the second cosine, okay, of this, which will just give me b, which means I need to do the second cosine of this. So to avoid rounding it off, I'm going to do second cosine. I'm going to go up and highlight that, okay, and hit enter, okay, so that I'm doing that without rounding it off. And then my answer is 116.8 degrees. Okay? So let's take a second to look back at what we did. We found angle B first because it was across from the longest side. We needed an angle, so we needed to be over here. We needed angle B, so we had to be here. We plugged everything into the equation, and when we got the answer, we had to second cosine that in order to find angle B. Okay. Definitely much more difficult than the law of sines. I think you will agree with that. So now that we have a pair, the B pair, we know 19 is side B, and we know 116.8 is angle B. Now we can use the law of sines to find either angle A or angle C. It doesn't matter which one we find next, okay? But I'm going to revert to the law of sines. And you don't have to. You could continue using the law of cosines, but people generally don't want to if they have an option. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the law of sines, and I'm going to find angle A. Okay, so to find angle A, I'm going to use my pair, 19 over the sine of 116.8 equals side A over the sine of angle A, which I don't know. Okay, I don't know that one. So I'm going to cross multiply. Remember, I want to see this proportion and I want to see your final answer. If you want to show every step other than that, that's great, but you don't have to. Okay, so I'm going to cross multiply 19 times the sine of A equals 8 times the sine of 116.8. And I'm going to divide both sides by 19 so that I can get the sine of A by itself. Okay, and I'm going to do 8 sine of 116.8. I'm going to hit enter or end my parenthesis, either way. I'm going to divide by 19, and the sine of A is equal to this. Okay, and again, it's going to go on and on and on, okay, as these do, but I'm going to second sign this answer now, so that I can find out what A is. Second sign. And there we go. Angle A is 22.1. Okay, for some reason the book seems to do all of the angles to the tenths place and all of the sides to the hundredths place. It doesn't make any sense to me, but that's what they often do. Okay, remember, they're not as picky as they should be. Okay, not as picky as I would be if you were taking quizzes or tests. Okay. Now for angle C, what do you want to do? We've got the law of cosines. We've got the law of sines. Oh, somebody back in the back row says we could just subtract. Okay, now using subtraction, because we know again that our angles add up to 180. Angle C is 180 minus 116.8 plus 22.1. Okay, so 180 minus 116.8 plus 22.1, and that gives us 41.1 degrees. Okay, now just to be clear, if you wanted to use the law of sines or cosines to find angle C and then also do subtraction to double check and make sure you're right, that's always an option. Okay, the nice thing about these problems is that you now know more ways. And remember, we're still working with non-right triangles today. I didn't stress that at the beginning, and I probably should have. Okay. Questions? I'm trying to think what they might be. We're good? Okay, here we go. We're going to go on to our second example, which is a side angle side. So a side, the angle that's in between this side and the other side that we know. So you can see that we don't have a pair. We don't know side A, but we do know angle A. We don't know the angles that go with the two sides that we do know. So we don't have a pair. So we have to start out using the law of sines. Okay, now which angle or side should I find first? Well, I already know my largest angle, but I don't know my largest side. So let's find that first, okay? If I'm going to find side A, I need to stick with this bunch of equations. And if I'm going to do A, I want to use the top one, okay? So A squared is equal to B squared, which is 15 squared, plus C squared, which is 10 squared, minus 2 times 15 times 10 times the cosine of angle A. Okay? I'm sorry, I know what angle A is, don't I? I was thinking something looked wrong there. That's 115 degrees. Okay, so let's do this using our calculator. We're going to do 15 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times 15 times 10 times the cosine of 115. Okay, and my parenthesis, not really necessary, but I'm going to do it anyway, and hit enter. And this right here is equal to A squared. Be careful here. Okay, that's not A yet. What do I need to do? I need to square root it. So I'm going to get my square root. I'm going to go up and highlight that, paste it in, take the square root of it without rounding off until the very end, 21.26. Again, as I said, for some reason in the book, tenths on the angles, hundredths on the sides. Okay, now what do you think? Oh, you've noticed that we have a pair? Absolutely correct. We do have a pair. We now know side A, angle A, so we can find either of the other two angles and it doesn't matter which one. Okay, so let's go ahead and find angle B. Okay, so A was 21.26 over the sine of A, which is 115, equals B, which is 15. By the way, I didn't label this. I think that was probably clear. Okay, over the sine of B. Okay, I'm going to cross multiply. Okay, so 15 times the sine of 115 equals 21.26 times the sine of B. And I'm going to divide both sides by 21.26. Okay, I want to put this in my calculator. Remember, I want to parenthesis all of this or hit enter before I divide by 21.26. So I'm going to do 15 sine of 115, enter, divided by 21.26, enter. And this is now the sine of B. And in order to get B, I'm going to inverse or second sine that answer. There we go. And angle B is 39 point. See, I'd go 7.5. The book is probably going to go 8. Okay, the book is probably going to go 8. All right, now I want to find angle C. I can just do subtraction. 180 minus 115 plus 39.8. And if I type that in my calculator, 180 minus 115 plus 39.8 is 25.2. And there you go. Okay? The law of cosines. Our next lesson this week will be Heron's area formula. Pretty interesting formula. It's a way to find the area of non-right triangles. Okay? All right, that's it for tonight, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.